This is MrsAgroSquerril standing in for Agro while he recovers from some vocal strain. He is recovering, but it could be a while yet. I hope you enjoy. H.L.G.S. by Thelonious Howe. Breedling wasn't sure that this was the right decision. The air of the hall reeked of cheap stimulant. The plastic-backed chair was stiff and uncomfortable, and the various others who had already arrived were chatting among themselves in hushed tones. She felt decidedly like an outsider at some strange place of reverence, one where she didn't belong. She should make an excuse, claim to have gotten her dates mixed up, or that she had arrived at the wrong location. She was just about to lift herself from her seat and issue some stock standard excuses when a serpentine casecoat slithered into the hall. It was almost always impossible to discern the emotion on reptilian faces, but as this one stared her down, she understood. It was the face of kindness and empathy, a face she would need to weather the coming storm. "Oh, I see we have a new member tonight. I'm sorry you're here, but welcome nonetheless. Would you care to introduce yourself?" Breedling scratched the back of her paw nervously. All eyes had fallen upon her, and it would be a serious breach of decorum to not at least offer her name. "I am Breedling, Imidali Breedling." "Then it is with heavy hearts that we receive you, Breedling. My name is Korak, and I am here to help you on this journey." There was something almost off-puttingly comforting about this Kesko. Perhaps it was his body language, or his incredibly soft tone. It was like he had been through this 1,000 times and knew exactly what to say and how to say it. "I will impress upon you that this is a safe place, that you are under no obligation to speak, and if you so wish, may simply sit and listen. But I have found, in my time, it does help to talk. So would you like to tell us about them?" Breedling wasn't quite sure she understood the question. "I'm sorry?" "You are here for the support group, yes? Unless you're looking for Rickles, but that starts later. So if you'd like to tell us about them, we would be honored to hear it." Though the Kesko had been intentionally vague in his wording, Breedling knew exactly what he was talking about. She should have just excused herself, made excuses about time, but a memory flickered and compelled her to stay. Well, his name was Mike, or Mac, or Mark maybe. She could feel the judgment emanating from the other congregants. They probably all had life stories and family histories, and here she was without even a solid grasp on his name. "But we all just called him Fury." "Fury?" Korak asked. Breedling wanted to throttle the Kesko. It came from an old game that one of the crew used to play. There was this character, Furious the Monkey Boy, and he was just that, a monkey boy, I guess. But we called him Fury because he was anything but. Ironic, really. He always wore a smile, quite possibly the happiest, most optimistic person I ever met. Breedling looked to the Kesko. She was expecting some sort of retort, perhaps something about her slightly derogatory naming scheme. But Korak remained unfazed and simply stared at her with an expectant look. So she sighed and soldiered on. "I met him on Mampako station. Said he had nothing, no family or friends, and that he'd work hard for a meal. And I guess he was right. He did." Korak remained silent. He just waited for her to continue. Breedling shifted in her hard plastic chair. "We were on a run between Esco and Jamalt. Low-grade ores, nothing fancy. But it's a viper's nest of pirates. We thought we'd be fine. Small visibility, little ship, poorly defended. It wasn't much of anything worth noticing." She briefly looked up and glanced around the room. Most eyes were fixed squarely on her, waiting for the details of what was coming next, though one in particular caught her attention. It was an old Asteran warhound, leaning back on his chair with a slight smirk on his face. Clearly, he knew where this tale was headed. "But we weren't small enough, not clever enough. We got boarded outside of Sapiko. I thought we were fucked. None of us were worth any ransom. So I was trying to make my peace with the Pantheon when everything started." She heard the Asteran chortle and wondered how deep did his knowledge go. "They rounded us up, took us into the mess. I could count all of my crew there. We were all terrified. But I just so happened to notice that he wasn't there, that we were lacking a crewmate." She hadn't thought about it. In fact, she had done everything she could not to think about it. And yet, now here she was, being forced to confront her own failures. Still, despite her conscious mind screaming at her to stop, she soldiered on. She checked herself and wondered, did her decision get the human killed? I never actually put him on the manifest. She fidgeted in her seat. She knew she was going to be judged for this. Anyways, I thought Fury had gone off to make himself small, she continued. He wasn't on the record or anything. He had no part in any of this, and if he had just stowed himself away, he would have been fine. But then things started to happen. We could hear it over the comms. The pirate crews started reporting bodies popping up, patrol mates missing, that kind of thing. It wasn't really until their captain sent his first squad that we sensed something was up. But when he did, and they didn't come back, we all felt the shift. He got nervous, the captain I mean, mumbled something about seeing to it yourself, and took his personal guard, then left us in the mess, entirely unsupervised. I think we all knew, but no one wanted to say it. Breeling watched as Kurak scribbled something on his pad. Please, continue if you'd like. So we waited. We must have waited for hours. We were all terrified. But then no one came back. No one checked on us. No one collected us. So we got curious and we started to tentatively look around the corridors and such. There were signs of invaders, of course, but it was corpses and warnings. Breeling huffed. There were 43 crew on my ship. 42 were registered and captive, and 1 was making an entire posse regret being born. And then Breeling scratched at the side of her cheap foam cup. We did find him, eventually, and she breathed deep, because this was the hardest part. He was in a pool of his own blood, surrounded by dead pirates, and he looked at me and he smiled, and he asked me if we were safe, if he got them. And did he? Korak asked, again, too off-puttingly comforting to mean any offense. Breeling sighed. He did. He did, and he seemed glad about it, 'cause he smiled and said thanks. Those were his last words. His final words in the verse were, thanks for everything. I got him killed, and the idiot still thanked me. The reclining Asteran huffed, that's a human for ya. This broke something inside Breeling. It's not fair, she screamed. My crew is full of degenerates, washouts and muck-ups. Most have a record as long as my tail. If you ever needed a hand, some help, or even just a joke to get you through your shift, Furious would give it, not one of those useless layabouts. Why would the gods take the only good thing that Forsaken ship has ever seen? Why? It's not fair. Breeling realized she was on the verge of dry heaving and drew deep, measured breaths to calm down a little. She had embarrassed herself quite enough for one day. Vomiting on the ugly tile need not be added to the list. But as she looked up, she found herself met only with sympathetic eyes. It seemed this wasn't the first time this group had witnessed an outburst such as this. And likely, it wouldn't be the last. Korak just nodded towards her and lowered his clipboard. Breeling, had you ever worked with a human before? She quickly wiped her snout, in a vain attempt to keep her bodily fluids in check. No, this was the first. A couple of quiet chuckles from the group nearly sent her into a rage. They were laughing at her. They were mocking her grief, deriding her loss. This was supposed to be a support group, but they were just like the rest of the Forsaken Galaxy, a bunch of rampaging arseholes. She was ready to give them a piece of her mind and storm out with what little dignity she had left, when Korak softly asked, And how much do you actually know about humans? Not a whole lot, really. Just whatever everyone else does, I suppose. You said that your human claimed to have no one on the station, correct? That's what he told me. Oh, aren't you something special? His tone wasn't mocking or sarcastic, but sincere. There may have even been a hint of glee underlying the statement. This confused poor Breeling something fierce. She was a simple hauler captain, as far as she could tell. She was about as notable as a rock or a stick. How's that? She asked. Breeling, your Furious was a Dero. I know you don't have much experience with them, but drifters don't usually last long in one place. They're vagabond wanderers, vagrants. They'll ride for a while, and then you'll make port one day and your Rambler will be gone, off to their next adventure or just to earn their next meal. He spent a year on your ship. That's practically a lifetime for a drifter. He even marked the day as an occasion. He may not have been your people, but in you, in your crew, he found a family, a clan. And let me tell you this, as I've heard hundreds of stories, I've even seen it firsthand. When you threaten a human's family, they will fight. They'll fight until their last bullet, until their last breath, until they have spilled their last drop of blood to protect them. This caught her off guard. So maybe she was a little laxer with some of the rules. Maybe she would turn a blind eye when a container of ethanol went missing. But she never treated him differently than any of the other crew members, at least not to her recollection. She just wasn't as keen on running her ship military as many other captains were. Was that all it took to buy the undying loyalty of a human? You gave him a place where he could find peace, where he no longer had to wonder about where he would sleep or struggle to find purpose. You gave to him as much as he gave to you. So when he thanked you, Breeling, he did so sincerely, because you gave him something he probably had never had in his life, a home. And for the first time since she had lost her human, Breeling allowed herself to cry. End of story.
I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.